Just a day after meeting with Ohio lawmakers, General Motors CEO Mary Barra back on Capitol Hill today. Take a listen to what she said just after meeting with Michigan representatives.
It's important for General Motors to make necessary but incredibly difficult changes to make sure that we can be in a leadership position so General Motors is strong to provide jobs, to provide manufacturing, and to provide leadership in the transportation industry as we move forward.
Michigan Democratic Congresswoman and a former General Motors executive, Dingell, was at the meeting today. She joins us now. Congressman Dingell, what is Mary Barra doing wrong?
Well, look, for starters, the way the whole thing rolled out was not right. But I think what probably got expressed by Republicans and Democrats at today's meeting the most was the concern about how much production was being moved to Mexico, which was contributing to the low volume that's at these plants. And 80%, it's almost 800,000 units that are being were built last year in Mexico, and 80% of them were shipped back to the United States. So we need to have a level playing field, and we're concerned about the decisions that are building. For instance, the Blazer was the most recent, building these cars in Mexico.
Congresswoman, GM went bankrupt because they ran their business very poorly, and now they're trying to run their business profitably. And it seems to me that now the government is telling them they should not be doing that. Gary B. Smith, who was one of the principals on the show to begin with Bulls and Bears, had this to say yesterday. Roll this tape, please.
I was reading through some of the transcripts, and I can't remember if it's a senator or Congressman Dingell that used to be actually a GM executive. I don't know how long. I don't know what she did. But she said, I want to go through and review their product plans. The hubris that some senator or some government representative is going to go through the product plans of a company and make sure that they're there to her liking. Incredible.
Congresswoman, are our free markets dead?
First of all, that was taken out of context, and I'm not looking to do their product plans or where they're going to produce things, but I want to know that we're playing on a level playing field. And when we've got trade agreements that allow people to ship jobs overseas because it's cheaper to produce cars in Mexico because of deliberate trade policies, I am concerned about that. And that's what I was saying. And I do not think that the free market is dead. I am very aware that this industry is a cyclical industry. It used to be that if we were at 14 or 15 million units, we thought that that was a very good sales year. Now, we've been at 18 million and we're back to 17 million. And I understand that we're competing in a global marketplace. But I also understand that we're competing with countries that care about supporting the companies that are producing in their countries. And I want to make sure that we're not giving tax incentives or we don't have trade policies that are making it less competitive in this country. I want the United States to stay at the forefront of automobile producing and transforming mobility.
But it does seem like a lot of the comments seem to be that you want them to make cars that nobody wants to buy. And when we look at the competitiveness of GM, they actually are looking at some of the highest profit growth for next year. We don't want to change that. That is a good growth for a long-term growth overall, and having plants both in the U.S. and outside of the plant. So how do you present it so that they can make cars and still be profitable?
Well, for starters, I'd like to see workers, and you know, we're competing in the United States with wages that are $1.80 to $2.80 an hour. That's very hard to compete in that kind of competitive marketplace. So what I'd like to do is to level the playing field for all workers. But you know, they're going to produce. Look, I want to see. General Motors says that they're going to produce more than 20 electric vehicles by 2025. I want those cars built here in the United States. So what do we need to be doing? But we also, at times, look, Mary Barra and I have known each other for a very long time. And I was very intense last week, and I'm still intense. But I want to make it clear that I respect her, but I'm not afraid to tell you what I think. And at times, General Motors sends out very mixed signals on what public policy they're looking for. We need to have a united industry as we're talking about different policy alternatives if we're ever going to understand what they want. So we had a very candid conversation about a lot of things today, and I want to work with General Motors to make sure that they are successful, but I also want to protect jobs here in this country, not see them shipped overseas.
Congressman Dingell, we really appreciate you coming. I'm so sorry to cut this short.